Hey there, and welcome back to Common Knowledge, the show where I take a look at common Magic the Gathering cards and tell you, are they any good in the Pauper format or not? We've got a park across the street from me, and there's some music playing. I don't know if that's going to catch on the recording, but hey, you know, it's music, so it'll be fine. Probably enhance the experience. Let's start with our first card. It is Rakish Revelers for 2 and Naya. We don't get to say the tricolor clans as often here, but that's 2, a red, a green, and a white for a 5/3 elf druid rogue. When this creature enters, you create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token, and you can pay 2 and exile this card from your hand to have target land gain, tap, and add any of the Naya colors, red, green, or white, until this card is cast from exile, and you may cast this card for as long as it remains exiled. I think these new Capenna creatures are really interesting. I don't know if they're good, but I do know that they are very interesting. There's the Esper one. I don't remember the new Capenna families here exactly. And this one says the watermark there says Cabaretti, so that's that one. It's a cool idea, right? You get a color fixer early, and it protects the card from any sort of discard effects your opponent might have, and it's a spell that you can then cast later in the game. So it's a little bit modal in that way, and I generally like that. This was probably really useful in Limited, just to have these kinds of cards that allow you a little bit more freedom. I would say it's really tough, especially in Sealed, to go 3-color and do it well, especially if you're trying to go true 3-color and not just splashing one last color. So this is probably really nice there. In Pauper, I'm not saying the fixing is bad in Pauper. This would be useful, but I think you have so many other options. You know, red is the color that has Cleansing Wildfire in it, so you're able to get lands that way. Green has all sorts of, many partings or other Lay of the Land style effects that can grab you lands. We have enough of the land cyclers from Lord of the Rings that we can grab dual type lands. I don't think you need this. And taking that part out, or just putting that aside for a second, what is the rest of this card? It's a 5-mana 5/3 that makes 6/4 of stats. But they're both just vanilla creatures. 5 mana's asking a lot, especially when 3 of that mana is colored pips, and they're all different colored pips. I don't know. I don't particularly love it. I think this thing would need to do a little bit more for the 2-mana thing. Like, if it gave you a scry, maybe, and this ability. This ability plus a scry. Maybe. Scoring-wise, let's go for something like I want to give it like a 3.3. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3.3. What do we got next? It is Trained Arynx, and that's 1 and a white for a 3/1 Cat Beast mount. When this creature attacks while saddled, it gains first strike until end of turn, and you scry 1. Hey, there's the scry that I was asking for. And it's got saddle for 2. Have we done saddle? I think we've done saddle on the channel before, but it's probably been a while. To saddle this creature, you tap any number of other creatures you control with total power 2 or more. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn, and you saddle only as a sorcery. So in a way, they were kind of trying to fix vehicles, and vehicles can be crewed at instant speed, and you could do that on both offense and defense. And the way that all these mounts work is all the mounts kind of have either an attack trigger or a before combat trigger or some kind of trigger that is really only usable on your turn or only good on your turn. So the idea is that you're not holding up all your creatures to be able to saddle this creature. And also, this thing is just a creature on its own. So it is just a normal 3/1. It's not like a vehicle where it can't do anything until it gets crewed. It doesn't become a creature until it gets crewed. You do have this as a creature. It just gets a little bit of a bonus if you pay the cost here of tapping down other creatures on your side to power that up. Turning a vanilla 3/1 into a 3/1 with first strike seems all right. Plus the scry is just decent little card advantage, or at least card selection. I don't think this is particularly great. It is pretty cheap. A 2 mana 3 power first striker is all right, even when that first strike is a little conditional. But I just don't see where this is anything more than a halfway decent attacker. And I think we have a lot of halfway decent attackers in white, out of white. And I just don't think this has anything super special about it to make you go, oh, I see how this could work with this and work with that and work with that. That maybe the saddling, tapping your own creatures down, maybe there's something to that. I mean, you don't have Kona Rescue Beastie as part of the Pauper card pool, but other creatures have things that happen when they're tapped, and we saw more of Duskmourn stuff of the survival mechanic. If a creature is still alive and tapped on the second main phase, you get some type of effect. So there are some things you could potentially do with this. I just don't think any of them are all that efficient or effective for a Pauper deck, a constructed Pauper deck that is trying to do something, powerful. So we'll give Trained Oryx, in a way, I kind of like it a little better than that Nuka Penna card, just because it is a 2 mana spell that you're probably playing a little bit more often. But I think you can probably find more to do with that Nuka Penna card. I'm going to give this thing a 3, just straight up 3. Bola Slinger is 3 and a white for a 2/2 cat soldier with backup. When this creature enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following ability until the end of turn. What is that ability? Whenever this creature attacks, you tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls. That makes sense from a Bola perspective. That's kind of what a Bola does. This, I imagine, is a bit of a reference to the Bola from oh god, of course we're gonna get Bola stuff. The Leonin Bola from here from Darksteel. But and you can see that this is a cat that's doing it, so I bet that's a Leonin, and this is mirrored in some way through the March of the Machine. It's not particularly good. A 2/2 that taps down a creature or an artifact, I guess, but probably going to tap down the creatures more often because it's an attack trigger. I don't know why you'd really care to tap down an opponent's artifact. I guess there's some ways that it probably matters, but most of the time you're probably going to be tapping down a creature to be able to get in with damage with this guy. Now it's not always a 2/2. You have to imagine that this is going to have 3 power attached to it, 3 of stats, because the backup will give a +1/+1 counter to something. It could even give the +1/+1 counter to itself. So it could be a 4 mana 3/3 tapper, which is okay. Or I like that this doesn't have haste, but the backup kind of gives the ability haste because your other creature gets that ability. Similar to the Trained Oryx, how much does that really matter? What does that really forward a game plan that you have for your Pauper deck? I don't think it really does. I think this ends up kind of going into that draft shaffy kind of column, but I like it. I like the idea behind it. It's just a little too normal. And also 4 mana is a lot of mana. I don't care what this thing does. 4 mana is a lot of mana. especially when you're only getting 3/3 of stats and potentially only 2/2 of stats. Yeah, I think I'm going to give this thing like a 2.6, which also seems a little high, but... Void Snare, single blue mana for a sorcery. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Okay. Yeah. As sorcery speed, you know, you're not going to get to do cool unsummon stuff with this. You are playing it on your turn, but you also have to consider that you can bounce your own stuff with this. And unsummon is just creatures, so you could bounce, you know, a pesky artifact or enchantment on their side too, and that can work and that can be nice. But you can also bounce your own stuff if you need to. Now, blue, you have plenty of ways of blinking and bouncing your own stuff that is a little bit more repeatable than a Void Snare, but Void Snare's cheap. It's single blue mana. That's about as cheap as it gets. I like this little effect. I wish it was at instant speed, but if it was at instant speed, it would be way better than a bunch of cards. And we probably can't have that. Still, I'll end up giving this thing a 3.8, I think. I just think these effects are potentially pretty good, especially when there are so many bouncy kind of decks in Pauper. Knowing that you can have the ability to use this on your own guys or your opponent's guys and having that flexibility, I like it. Angelic Edict is 4 and a white for a sorcery. Exile target creature or enchantment. Have we done this before? I don't think we've done this specific card before, but we've done something very similar. And my answer is going to be pretty similar to this. It's like, these are both nice things. I am paying 5 mana for this sorcery speed spell, though. You know, Void Snare, that's a single mana. I don't mind that being at sorcery speed when I'm paying so little for it. When I'm paying 5 mana, sure, it's flexible. It exiles a creature or an enchantment. Those are nice things to be able to exile. But 5 mana is so much mana. At sorcery speed, nah, I can't. I can't possibly give this something very good. I'm going to give this a 2.9, and that's just because it's a nice flexible removal spell. But you got to dock it a bunch of points for just being so expensive. You'll never play this card. There's just cheaper cards out there that are a little bit more narrow, but they get the job done better and faster. Some of those are at instant speed. Blood Hunter Bat is 3 and a black for a 2/2 bat with flying. When this creature enters, target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. All right, 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer is not good. Just going to get that out there. Not great. But the 2 drain is all right. And when you're thinking about, again, kind of blinky, probably not bouncy, because again, 4 mana, I don't think you want to be bouncing this back to your hand to then have to play another 4 mana. But you have blink effects, you have those black effects that when the creature dies, it comes back to the battlefield, and so you can kind of stack a couple of those to gain a number of life and have your opponent lose a number of life. I like drain effects because they really do stack up the reach to your opponent's health total, right? Those are big swings. Those are big life swings. This is a 4 life swing just when you play the card, and then it's a 2/2 flyer, which is pretty decent as well. But 4 mana is still asking a little bit too much. I think I'd rather pay 3 mana to have this drain 1 and then let the rest of the stats be the same. 4 mana though, I just don't see what deck this goes into. So feel like a bit of a downer today, but I think I'm going to give this a 2.8, I think. Sporecap Spider is 2 and a green for a 1/5 spider with reach. Is that worth it as a blocker? Okay, put this to the side. This is not a good card. You should not play this in your Pauper deck, but I am just asking generally, is 3 mana for a 1/5 reach. Is that the proper mana cost for that stat line? Probably. I don't know. I mean, you have Aegis turtles out there that are a single mana. Now it's blue, but still, you can pay a single mana for a 0/5 creature. Now that's a creature that's on the ground. It doesn't have reach. It's not going to block flyers. So I'd want to spend at least one more mana to be able to get reach on that guy. And this thing does at least have a point of power, so it's discouraging fairies and things like that. It still just doesn't seem quite worth it to me. I feel like this could be 2 mana and it would still not see any play and everyone would be fine with it. But that's not why you make cards. I'm not telling Wizards, oh, you screwed up on this card, you should have made a 2 mana card. In this limited environment on Rise of the Eldrazi, maybe it was. Maybe it is statted correctly, or maybe it is costed correctly for that limited environment. But when you take it through the entire Pauper card pool, this does seem a little expensive for what is a pretty poor vanilla creature. I'll give this thing a 2.1. Does block fairies all day, though. Brilliant Spectrum is 3 and a blue for a sorcery. It has Converge. You draw X cards, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast this spell, and then you discard 2 cards. I feel like we just got in Secret to Strixhaven, one of the Archaics basically has this ability. But having it on a sorcery is okay. We just don't have a ton of Pauper decks that are playing more than 3 colors, and honestly, we don't have all that many that are playing really 3, or you'll have some splashes, or you'll have Gates decks that can make a 3rd color of mana or a 4th color of mana, I guess, when they really need to. You have Elves decks that are able to tap creatures down for a mana of any color. You have some new Bender's Waterskin decks that have been starting to come out, and generally those, I mean, the Bender's Waterskin can make a mana of any color. Generally, that doesn't matter too much, because it's just, the reason those decks play that card is that it is just generating mana generally. It's not that it's really getting you all that much specific colors that matters, or you still are just getting the 1 or 2 colors that you've been wanting for the deck the whole time. So splashing into a 3rd or 4th color, it's an okay draw spell. You're still paying 4, and you kind of gotta pay 4. They need this card to cost enough where you're putting enough colors into the cost. So you know you're already paying 1, or you're getting 1 because you're paying blue for this card in the first place. So let's say you do, in the best case scenario here, you play 4 colors and you draw 4 cards, and you still discard 2 cards. A 4 mana draw 4, discard 2 is okay. It's okay. But I don't love it when you consider all the extra hoops that you've had to jump through to get those extra colors. It's kind of like when we were looking at that new Capenna creature at the beginning. Man, that's a lot of really specific color pips that I need. Is this creature worth me jumping through the hoops of getting all those color pips? And this is a monocolored card, but it's a monocolored card that needs you to jump through a bunch of hoops. Because if you're not jumping through those hoops, you are potentially, you could spend 4 mana, and it's all blue mana, and you draw 1 card, and then you have to discard 2. And that's terrible. That's card disadvantage at that point. So you have to play at least 2 colors to just loot twice for 4 mana, and I don't think that's a very good deal either. So you really do have to play at least 3 colors, and probably 4 to really get any sort of value out of this. I just don't like it. That feels so restrictive to me as a player, and I feel like this would just rot in my hand as I tried fruitlessly to get to the right colors of mana that I needed. Let's go for something like a I'm just going to go for a straight up 2. I really don't like this card. I feel like it's a bit of a trap that if you're just trying to make it work, and it's probably to the detriment of the rest of your deck. Kitsune Dawnblade. Hey, we got a Kamigawa card here. It is a Saviors of Kamigawa card, so it's probably pretty bad. 4 and a white for a 2/3 Fox Samurai with Bushido 1. So whenever this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And when this creature enters, you may tap target creature. Yep, that's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. 5 mana for a 2/3, even though, yes, it becomes a 3/4 when it blocks or becomes blocked. Bushido is not a particularly good ability, even though I have fondness for Kamigawa and Bushido, but I can admit it's not a very good ability. And tapping a creature when it enters, I don't know, who cares? This doesn't have haste, so it's not like you get to swing in with it. So you have to have other creatures on the table to be able to take advantage of them tapping that creature. This thing doesn't have flash, so it's not like you're playing it on their turn and tapping down a creature before it can attack you. At that point, tapping, it barely even feels like it's not tempo loss to your opponent. The only thing it is putting their shields down for a better attack, and you have many better options than Kitsune Dawnblade. Art is fantastic. Card is bad. I'm going to give this thing a 1.5. Really bad. And yet I love it anyway. Next card. Goblin Freerunner is 3 and a red for a 3/2 Goblin Warrior ally with Surge for 1 and a red. I have no idea what Surge does, so let's read it together, shall we? You may cast this spell for its Surge cost if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn. Okay. And it's got Menace. So you have a 4 mana 3/2 with Menace, and that's a little overcosted. But if you've played another spell, you're not going to have a teammate in this format. But if you've played another spell, it could just be a 1 mana spell that you're already getting, an Opt or something, or a Lightning Bolt. It's more in these colors. Then you're getting a 2 mana 3/2 with Menace, which is a really good rate. It's still not an amazing creature, but at least it's a much better rate. I still don't love it. It is an ally, though. You gotta think about allies. There are all sorts of things that allies can do these days. Goblin and Warrior are both pretty good creature types too, so this has some potential to it. It's just not a very good card. 3/2 Menace is, I don't know, fine. Forces your opponents into bad blocks or just taking chunks of 3 each time. Okay. But again, not very cohesive with many decks that you're building. Where does that really come in handy? It doesn't really. Let's go with a 2.5. That's probably a little high. 2.4. And let's do a bonus card to end the day. Scrapwork Cohort is 4 mana for a 3/1 artifact creature soldier. And when this creature enters, you create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. It also has Unearth for 2 and a white. You can return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, and you exile it at the beginning of the next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield, and you unearth only as a sorcery. We've seen some Unearth cards do some really cool things. The Scrapwork Mutt is a big deal in some Dredge decks. We've seen the, what's it called? The red guy from Modern Horizons 3 that's Impact Tremors. He's got an Unearth ability as well. And he's pretty good. So Unearth, I think, has shown to be a solid ability here. 4 mana for a 3/1 that also gets you a 1/1. So you're getting 4/2 of stats for 4 mana. That's pretty bad. But any color can play it. But it's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. And then the Unearth, paying 2 and a white to get a 3/1 for 1 turn and another 1/1. Nah. Nah. I'm just never gonna play this thing. This thing is not particularly good. No, I'm trying to think of where I could really make this work. It is nice that all these things are soldiers. If you have a soldier-centric deck, this puts 2 soldiers on the table. Okay. Still, though, I don't think that's a reason to put it in your deck. Let's go with a... Ooh, I'm going to go with a 1.9. I think it's lower than 2. I think your deck is worse off by putting this into it. Why don't we do one more card? I don't want to be such a downer. Oakheart Dryads is 2 and a green for a 2/3 enchantment creature nymph dryad with Constellation. Whenever this creature or another enchantment you control enters, our target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Ooh, I like target creature. Temporary stat boosts are okay in 1-on-1. When you're playing something like Commander, you're generally going to want the counters and have something more permanent. But in 1v1s, these +1/+1s are kind of solid. Think about prowess. And this can make enchantment decks pretty cool. Like, imagine throwing a bunch of auras on this guy or another guy and then just getting nice little boosts every time you do. Okay. Like, this thing itself is an enchantment creature, so it's working well with the Ancestral Mask or the Ethereal Armor. I forget the name of that one. It doesn't go in the Bogles decks, and probably shouldn't, because it is, a creature that can be pretty easily killed, whereas all the other creatures in your Bogles decks should not be easy to kill. So I don't think it really helps you out there too much, but it is another enchantment. Like, one of the things that you do find with Bogles decks is that you have creatures that can get blown out early by breath weapons and things like that because they don't target. So you can lose out to that. So it is kind of nice to have a creature that has a decent amount of toughness where it's not going to be taken out by a breath weapon. It still counts as an enchantment for you, so it does work with those other things that I mentioned. I think you could make a case. I don't think it would be a very strong case. And the Bogles deck is the only deck that this could possibly go in. And I just don't think it's quite good enough there. I'm still going to give this thing a 3.9, which I think is a pretty good score for a card like this. But I don't think it makes the team. Like, this is a JV card here that might sit the bench on a varsity game, but it's not going in. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, thanks for joining me on this one. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.